Good morning, USA. Welcome to the show. This is coffee time again, where we expose the truth. Today, we're exposing the truth of Roger Bliss. He's also an author. He's done a lot of stuff, and I've got a lot of questions I need to ask him, and I want to ask him, and he wants to answer. And, well, get off your butt and do something right for a change. You ain't done anything right in decades. You need to get going. You messed up the whole world. Anyway, welcome to the show, John.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
What's the main point you want to make today?
Oh boy, the main point. I don't know. I don't know. I have so many points. It's. I think I just see where the conversation goes.
Okay, that's a legitimate answer.
Okay.
I get
Sorry
it
about
quite a
that.
lot when I ask that particular question because they're not. They're not prepared for that particular question.
Yeah.
And I asked the questions that you wrote down when you signed up in Podmatch. You wrote down a bunch of questions that you were willing to answer.
Hmm.
And those are the ones I ask starting with. And I mix them up sometimes and change them around and don't ask them exactly the same way you wrote them down. But I
Let's
don't
hear them.
got your questions.
Let's see what you got.
Let's see what we got. First one we got is why do you think religions can never work?
Do I think what can never work? Oh, religions, religions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've kind of changed. I think that's I have to. I've changed my mind on that. So
Okay.
they can work to an extent and they can work for a lot of people, but they can't work in the way I think they were meant to work. And let me explain. So the original people who start religions, they usually, not always, but they usually don't intend to start religions. They're what I would call spiritual artists. They're just doing their thing. And their thing happens to be they're talking to God. And it's something that most of us can't do. And yeah, very, very few of us can really have these intense spiritual experiences where you talk to God and and you feel this incredible oneness, with all humanity and with God and with time and you understand your place in the universe. All of that. I mean, they're mystical experiences, and very few people have these. Although plain normal people that you see every day on the street have had them. Um, but some people are superstars in terms of mysticism, and that might be in people like Jesus Christ or Buddha, or Krishna, or there's others. There's plenty, and so one of the problems is that people like that they can't, or not people like that. You can't. Nobody can really explain what it's like or how they did it. Um, what is it like to touch God? What is it like to feel this experience of oneness, of this experience of loving everyone? Well, I guess you can just say, I felt like I loved everyone, but what's the feeling? And what did you do? And how did you get there? How can I get there? How can you train me so that I can do what you did? And they're unable to really do this. Um, I guess a way I describe this is, you know, we're like blind men in a way, and we're asking someone to explain to us, well, what's the difference between red and blue? I don't get it. Explain it. And you can't explain that to a blind person. If they've never seen before, they're never going to understand. And it's the same with these feelings, or there's this experience of religion that, or of, let's say, God that these people have. So one of the reasons why I think that religion can't work is that the people who really experience God and they want to share their message, the good news, you can say, is it can't be done. It can't be done. Our language is limited. So that's number one. The second part is, even if they could, even if Jesus, let's talk about Jesus and Christianity. That's my background. It's what I know most, or think I know most of. And let's just say Jesus was with his apostles every day and was able to explain, was able to actually put these things into words. They probably wouldn't get it. Why? Because they are the blind men. They don't know the difference between blue and red, and they just wouldn't understand. And so they would do their best. They'd do their best, and they'd take the message, what bit of it they could understand, and then they would put their culture and their own personal, psychology on there because that's how they see the world, and then that's the message we get. And so some people have said, for example, why are there all these different religions? It doesn't make any sense. Why? And some have said, well, all the founders or the people who touched God, they all had the same experience, more or less the same experience. It's just that the way they described it, it was tempered by their language, their culture, and their personal history. And that's why we have different religions. It's like this same message got warped in different ways because we had different cultures that understand things in different ways. Go ahead.
I understand that very well because what I believe is essentially kind of like what you do is that Jesus, Mohammed, Buddha were all the same person. They just came from a particular group of people at a particular time and space, and he carried the
Ah,
same message.
yes, but they could have been different people too. I mean, look, I
Yeah,
don't
it could
know,
have been.
and they could have been different people, and could have been carrying the same message,
Mhm.
but you
Agree.
know, they all thought differently based on their upbringing, and
Yeah,
so they put it in different terms. Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely,
You bet. Where I
absolutely.
think about it.
So I didn't finish that. Let me just finish that whole statement why religions can't work. So,
Yeah.
one, I said the people who touch God can't just explain it. The people who are around them will never understand it. The people who are around them are the ones that actually start the religions. So Abraham Maslow, he's a really famous American psychologist. He's the one that came up with the whole hierarchy of needs thing. First, you need shelter, and then you need food, and then you need water, and then you need love, and then you need something to do, and stuff like that. But he also did a study on mysticism, and he called mysticism peak experience. That was his word for a peak experience was mysticism, touching God, not jumping out of an airplane, not winning the lottery, touching God. And he said there's two kinds of people in the world. There's peakers and non-peakers. And non-peakers will never understand what the peakers are talking about. And most of us are non-peakers. And non-peakers are often really good accountants and politicians and organizers and business people. Peakers are like artists. Artists can't organize anything. They can't make money. They could just make beautiful things. And so in a way it's like that. And so we end up with these religions that were organized with these canons, with these doctrines, with a hierarchy and all of this stuff that were organized by people who never saw God, who didn't understand what the guy who saw God saw or experienced, and so we end up with this religion that's a total derivative of what the original was. Okay, so finally, let me just finish that whole point. So when I say religions can't work, they can't do what the founder wanted to do, which was to bring other people to that experience of touching God. Can't do it. Can't do it. But but the thing is, most people are really we're kind of average in terms of religion. We're not superstars like Jesus Christ or Muhammad or Buddha. We're not. And so we're not going to become Buddhas. We're not going to touch God, but we can live good lives. And these religions that were created by these peakers, they really can do us some good. They can point us in some good directions so we can live good lives. It's just they're not going to provide us with enough instruction to get us to really be one with God. That's what I meant.
Okay, I understand. I understand that quite well. I see what you're talking about. I had an experience I'll tell you about real briefly back in 2010, I think it was 2011. I became an Episcopalian. I had a chiropractor kept telling me, come to this meeting, come to this healing session at her church. She kept after me, and pretty soon I just gave up and said, okay, I'll go. When I went into the church, it was an Episcopal church, and I walked down the narthex and made a right turn to go into the chapel.
Mm-hmm.
My left foot got halfway across onto the carpet, half on the wood floor of the narthex. I had this I call it the seventh power, a warm fuzzy to the seventh power. What it really was now, I believe, after all the years I've been an Episcopalian and studying it and doing things with the religion that I never did before, what it was the Holy Spirit touching me.
Yep. 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 Yeah. That's a peak experience. That's a
Yeah,
could be very well could be a mystical experience. And
very well.
did you feel this love for all people?
I don't know. Yeah, and more.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the part I can't explain. And the and more.
That's right. That's exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I feel
That's
it
it.
every time, not to the extent I did the first time, but every time I enter a new Episcopal church that I've never been in before, I get the same feeling. Not to the
Oh,
ex-
that's
not to the extent, not to the that I get it, but
mhm.
I get that same feeling.
That's really neat. That's so neat that you can get it back.
Yeah, it is
That's
so
really nice.
wonderful. I love going to new churches.
That's really wonderful. Yeah, I've had several, not several, maybe a handful, I guess is a better word, of mystical experiences, but I can't bring them back. I can't get them when I want them. I've tried and it's just so frustrating. You can't force it. You
No,
can't force it. It comes when it wants. And for me, I mean, yeah, after I had my first couple, I tried really hard for a few years, really hard to bring them back because it's like, this is the best thing I've ever felt, the best place I've ever been. I want back. I want back. And I got nothing. And I got so angry. I was so angry with God, really. And just,
yeah.
I was mad. Yeah, that was an awful time, actually.
So it still happens to me,
Well, you're lucky. You're
and I
very
don't know
fortunate.
why.
Nah, we're just all born different, you know.
Yeah,
As I see it, we're all just manifestations of God, and you're just, yeah, you were created differently than me, and you
yeah,
have the gift that you can get it over and over, and I
yeah.
don't.
And it's marvelous. I love it. I love it. It is such a warm glow. I felt like I was glowing.
Yep, yep, I know that.
Yeah, that's what it felt
Yep.
like, and it was just incredible, incredible. And it turned out to be the priest's daughter was that person trying to get me to come to the meeting. It was his
Mm,
daughter,
mm-hmm.
Amber. She was the one trying to get me to come.
Well, that's really
So,
neat.
but it
Good
was
for
a
you.
marvelous experience.
Mm-hmm.
What about this meeting between St. Peter and Paul's meetings with Nero and Simon Magnus?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. No, no, we'll talk about it. Yeah. So, I let's see. Simon Magus he's in the Acts of the Apostles. He was a really famous, they were called magicians, I believe. At least in the Bible, they called them magicians. And they're guys that could perform magical tricks. And he was known for being able to make statues walk or laugh. And he could turn rocks into bread. He could appear out of nowhere and he could float. So these are the things he was known for doing. And now in he met with Nero and with Saint Paul. Is that right? No, Peter. Saint Peter, Nero, and Simon Magus met together more than once. And Nero was totally confused. He wanted to understand, okay, wait a sec. Simon Magus, you're saying Peter is a wizard. Let's say, he's not in touch with God. He's a wizard because because Peter was able to heal people. And Peter supposedly brought people back from the dead, supposedly. And so that was, that's what magicians do. That's what wizards do. But Peter, was saying, no, no, no. But Simon Magus, he's a wizard because, he did all these things. And Nero wanted to know, okay, well, which one of you is real? I want to be with the more powerful of the two of you because that's who I'm going with. Yeah. So oh, by the way, this story is in the recognitions of Clement. So Clement was the third Pope of Rome, and he lived from 35 to 95 AD. Anyway, so they got together in one of these talks. They got together and they're both pointing fingers at each other, saying, "No, no, no, he's a wizard. No, he's a wizard." And at one point, so I'm actually reading from the book. So if the way I talk changes, it's because I'm reading. At one point, Simon says, "Let great dogs come forth and eat them up." And suddenly, these great dogs just appeared out of nowhere and they rushed at Peter. And Peter stretched out his hands in prayer and showed a loaf of bread that he'd blessed, and the dogs, seeing it, disappeared. This is in Clement. This is in the recognitions. In a later meeting of Nero, Simon, and Peter, this time St. Paul was also there. Nero didn't know who to believe. Which one was really sent by God? Who's the wizard? So Simon proposed, okay, how about this? I'm going to jump from the tower, a really high tower, and I'm going to float. Okay. That should prove that I'm the one. I'm the stronger of the two. I mean, I'm the real guy, and God's on my team. And so Simon did it. So this is, I'm quoting from Clement from the Recognitions. Simon goes upon it and commences flying in the air, attended by his angels. Peter, looking steadfastly at him, prays to the Lord to stop him. His prayer is answered, and Simon falls headlong and perishes. And that was the end of Simon Magus. And so Nero had Peter and Paul imprisoned for 3 days while he waited for Simon to rise from the dead, because Simon supposedly had done this before. He died and come back. And so but he didn't come back this time. And he really did die. So yeah, that's that meeting. But there's also something really also, I guess, interesting. Simon and Peter, they had some arguments, or not arguments, let's say they were public debates about Christ. And one of the arguments Simon had, which was really good, is, okay, wait a sec. This is the argument. If your God knows everything, then why would he put Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden knowing that they were going to screw up? He obviously doesn't know everything. Or if he did know everything, then he's cruel, because he would know that they're going to screw up. They're going to be kicked out of the garden, and they're going to be punished. And I don't know about the hell part, if they were talking about hell back then, but they're going to be punished. So he's either a cruel God or he doesn't know everything. Which one is it?
Good question.
I guess you can also say he was an incompetent God who would make this creature in his own image, who would be so terrible, right?
Yeah.
So willful and attracted towards evil and all this stuff. You made that creature and you know everything? No. You made that creature and you are all powerful? No. You just must be incompetent. What kind of God would do that? Well, that was the kind of question that Simon Magus would be asking Peter. And that he wasn't the only one to do that. There was a great emperor of Rome, one of my favorites. It was Julian. They call him Julian the Apostate. He came after Constantine. So Constantine's the one who made the Catholic Church the Church of Rome. And after him, the next emperor was Julian. And Julian said, no, 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 no. We're going to have all religions are fine. The pagan temples are fine. Reopen the temples. They're okay. And he himself was a pagan, and he actually wrote a book about a little pamphlet questioning the whole Christian religion, and he made that same argument, by the way. But anyway, I think I answered that question.
That's quite interesting. This is something I agree with you on this statement. I don't know about the years, but I agree with you on the statement that the Gospels were written at least 80 years after the apostles died.
Yeah. Where do I come with
from?
that? Okay, so
I mean, I believe it. It was written after he died. They died.
Well, so the way that this statement comes from, a guy wrote a book in around, let's see, I'm turning through my pages in case I don't know if you can hear them or not. So it is, I'm not going to find it, am I? Okay, well, I'll just make it up as I go. All right, so is it right? It's in this one. Okay, well, anyway, the Gospels, yeah, I'm saying were written 80 years after the last apostle died. Well, okay, so the reason why this person, his name was Judge Waite, and he was C.B. Waite, and he wrote around the year, I don't remember, it was like 1900 or something, and he wrote a book, The Christian Religion to the Year 2000. And he did a lot of research on this, and what he did was he read the early church fathers. He read everything he can get his hands on, and there was a lot of stuff available back then. And there was no mention of the Gospel of John, the Gospel of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. There's no mention of those Gospels until about the year, let's see, 80. I think it's like mid second century. That was the first time they were mentioned. But if you read so in the first century, let's see, that would be, so Jesus died, around, I don't know, 30 something AD. And then Israel was conquered in 40 AD.
Yeah.
And then, but the church was established 40 days after Christ died, right? In Israel by a bunch of Jews, and was headed by his brother, James, his half brother. And and so they developed, that was 60 years until the end of that century. And they had their own gospels. There was a lot of gospels that were mentioned, and we know they exist. We don't, or existed. We don't have them. We know they existed because they were written about by the early church fathers. They wrote about them.
Mhm.
And and so we have all this mention of these gospels, like even in the early second century, the 120s, 130s, 40s, 50s, they're writing about these other gospels, which we don't have anymore. And then finally is mid-century or later that we start hearing about Matthew, John, and Luke and, all that. So, excuse me. Another thing that's interesting about the early gospels is that there was no mention of um, of miracles. That all came in the second century. But there was St. Paul never once talked about virgin birth. St. Paul never talked about Jesus coming back as a person with a physical body. St. Paul is the earliest writings we have, St. Paul. And so in the first century, we only have two sets of writings. We have St. Paul and we have Clement. Clement of Rome, that's the third pope. So, but St. Paul never mentioned it. And the changing was it the wedding at Cana where he made the water into wine, or the fishes and loaves thing on the hill. I don't remember where that was. None of that. None of that was mentioned by early church fathers, or until the second century. It was a later thing. It was like and that was what, 3, 4 generations after Christ.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that versions of that story over the years, and I know I feel that they were written after they died and given the credit to them. That's what I
Yeah.
think.
Well, I don't know if it's giving credit. I think what it was, well, it could be. I mean, who am I to know? I wasn't there. It could be, but it could also be that maybe there was another Luke around, right? There was a lot of Lukes in the world.
Mhm.
So it could have been, the gospel according to Luke, but it could have been a Luke that was not an apostle. It was, Luke the plumber. And
Yeah.
and also, though, it could be that maybe they did say it was the Gospel of Luke, and then that makes it more authentic sounding. It's good marketing, right?
Well, Jesus was a very common name back in those days.
Because the name was Joshua, right?
Yeah.
That's the name. That's Joshua,
Yeah.
right?
They were
Right,
hard around, so
right.
somebody could have wrote the book and just had that by coincidence had the same name, or just took the same name, or
Yeah. No, it could have been someone else.
yeah.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So yeah, let's see. It was so like in 50 AD. Oh, yeah. That's when Paul and Barnabas, they met with James. Okay, St. Paul. He never met Jesus, right?
No.
So that's 50 AD. He met with James, Peter, and John, and they gave him permission to go and preach all over to the Gentiles all over the Roman Empire. And he did that, and he was very successful. And he wrote great stuff. And the religion is really based on Peter. I mean, not Peter.
Yeah.
It's based on Paul's letters and
It
Paul's
did.
teachings. It's really Paul's religion, and they didn't follow the Mosaic law, but the original church did. The original church, they were Jews. And when people often talk about the early Christians, I mean, I don't know who they're talking about, but I know I'm sure there's a lot of people were like me as a teenager. I always wanted to get right to the heart of it. It's like, okay, what was Jesus really like? Well, we won't know that. Well, what was the very early church like? What was it really like? Well, which early church are you talking about? Are you talking about the Gentiles who were, a couple generation later? Or are you talking about the Jews who actually knew him? Which one? And so, yeah. So anyway, the see what's to say? The first 15 bishops of the Jerusalem church were all circumcised Jews. So yeah, yeah. And that church was eventually, as the other churches, there was more and more people in the other churches, that like Antioch, Ephesus, Corinth, and Rome. There's just so many more people. Those churches became the centers of power. But before then, people would send, if they had disputes, let's say in Corinth or Rome or something, they would ask the church of Jerusalem, what's the truth? What should we do? That's how it was in the beginning. Then
Yeah.
later on, as they became more powerful, they decided, no, they're kind of just an outpost. We're the real thing, and they slowly pushed them aside. And or let's
Mhm.
not push them aside, maybe purposefully, but they just became less important. And that church, so they call them the Nazarenes.
Yes.
And they eventually died out. I think around the year 400 AD. I'm guessing that. I can't see it. I can't read my book that fast. But around 400 AD, they died out. And the problem was that the Christians didn't really like them so much because they followed the Mosaic Law. And the Christians weren't really into that so much. Yeah, we have the Old Testament, but we don't follow the rules. And then the Jews didn't like them because they were following this Christ guy who they saw as a false Messiah.
Yeah.
So they had no friends. They were squeezed in between these two, huge religions, and they just kind of
Kind of went away.
they went away. So yeah,
What book? What was here it says, what made you want to write this book? What was the name of the book?
name of a book? No, I don't think a book caused me to write this. I know why I wrote it. Um, so I wrote this. It all started, let's say, hmm, you may not like this, but that's okay. I took magic mushrooms when I was, I don't know when I was maybe 22, 24 years old or something. And I was with my brother and his friends on the beach somewhere in California. And they all started feeling the effects of the mushrooms very quickly. But I didn't. And they all took off and I was alone. And I don't remember what happened, except for I do remember waking up around 4 in the morning and I was lying on the sand on the beach, face down, and I heard this really sad, sad song repeating itself and repeating itself. And the song, to me at least, it just seemed to be, it was like reading Ecclesiastes, the book from the Old Testament. It was about how futile that, our lives are. We can be so excited, put so much energy into everything we do, but really it doesn't really mean anything. And it really comes down to nothing. It comes to nothing. But that's just the song. But the thought in my head was I saw my life from, let's say, a meta perspective, from the perspective of UFOs or God or angels or whatever. And I saw that, here I was, a young man, and I was, idealistic. I had these great ideas of how I wanted to live my life, and I was going to fall in love, and I was, going to have children and at work, and then I'd die. And my child, my son, would then do the same thing. He'd grow up, become a youth, be all idealistic, have these great ideas how they're going to live life and do great things in the world and find a woman, get married, have children, and die. And his child would do the same. And how my father did the same, and my father's father did the same, and my father's father's father did the same, etc. And I realized I'm just part of this long chain, this long story, and my part is so small. And when I had that feeling, or let's say revelation, I that changed everything. I just realized I don't know. That's where this book came from, really. And that's really the essence of the book,
Yeah.
is
What's the
that.
name of the book?
The book. Let's see. I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, maybe you
The
can. So,
False Paradigms of
oh,
Today and the Timeless Truth of Tomorrow.
oh, cool. You saw it. Okay, good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a long title. I wish it was shorter. I know I named it, but I didn't think it would be such a pain in the neck to try to get people to remember it. False Paradigms of Today, The Timeless Truth of Tomorrow, Essays on Meaning. And the easy way, I mean, if someone's looking for it, it's on Amazon, and you
Okay.
just type in my name, John Bliss, Bliss, and type in the word essays. John Bliss essays, and it will show up. That's the easy way to find it. Then, yeah, then you don't have to remember the whole. It's just too many darn words.
Yeah, because I normally what I do is I write the name of the book across the top when I edit it.
Hmm.
That's way too
Hmm.
long to put up there.
Well, I
I have
should
to put
have.
a separate page in the separate frame in the editing. Gives
Yeah,
it
it
to
should
the
have
book,
been
isn't
much
it?
shorter.
So I love getting the name of the book and getting people to buy it.
Say that again.
Well, when I have authors on it, they've written a book. I'd like to get that
Hmm.
get it published, get it
Yeah.
out so people can see it, remember
Hmm.
it, go get it.
Yeah. I mean, so look, I'm not going to make any money on this book. I spent $15,000 on an editor. This whole self-publishing thing, it's great. I mean, it's really neat that you can publish now like this. You don't need to get some book company to pick you up, because they wouldn't probably. It's like they would say there's no market for books like this. No one's interested in this stuff, and that's true. There's just a very small niche of people who might find this interesting. Um, but you can do it now. You can write, but if you're going to write nonfiction, you got to pay quite a bit of money for an editor because there's a lot of things you could write that are wrong. And that's,
Mhm.
my editor read it 3 times, and I rewrote it 3 times. And so, I spent a lot of money on this book. And I think so if people bought a hard copy, I'll make $2 back. I don't expect I do not expect to get my money back. I don't
No,
care. It wasn't about that. It was, this is really important stuff. It's actually
yeah.
a really good book.
I want to get it out. I want to get it known out there. So I'll put in an extra page uh, slot in the when I edit it between somewhere in there.
Yeah.
There's going to be a page of just the name of the book, the author, and where you can go get it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. It's yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. And if you read it, which I hope you do, please write a review. I
Yeah.
only have one review so far. It just was released on the ebook was released on October 1st. So today's the 15th. So I hope I
Okay.
didn't it was okay to say the date, but it was the
Yeah,
15th.
it's all
And
right. It's fine.
yeah,
Uh,
so it's only been 2 weeks, and it's quite a few pages, so I don't think many people finished reading it yet, actually. But
I usually read uh, audio books.
yeah, yeah,
That's what I do. Is I can't. I got dyslexic and I get words all mixed up and screwed up, change around and forget them. So I just do audio books. What I do mostly.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that's what I usually do. Anyway, I'll try it. Anyway, if I get it, I will read it. Let them read it to me.
Yeah, it's unfortunately it's not audio. Um,
Okay.
I I yeah, I can't imagine how long it would take to I mean, yes, I would probably have to read it myself. There's no
Yeah.
question because
Well,
I don't
I,
want to pay someone $15,000 to read the
I'm
book.
reading a book now that I believe is used by PhD students to learn aromatherapy. It's really complicated,
Hmm.
but it's written in AI.
Oh, that's bad. I'm
The whole book is
sorry.
AI. Guy wrote it using AI, which saved him a
It's
ton of money.
well, yeah, it saved them a ton of money, but it's awful writing. AI writing is awful.
Mhm.
At least I think so. I think it's just
I use
awful.
quite a bit of AI in my show notes and stuff. The fact is, it's being transcribed as we talk. It's being transcribed.
Hmm.
So I want
Well,
to get like,
there's value in AI. I understand that. And maybe it's, there's a lot of great things AI can do. But in terms of writing a book,
mm,
well, it's just me. I mean, I've spent so many hours writing, and I guess you can say the word is crafting, putting words together so they're right and getting
yeah,
exactly the right word. And AI, they use such flowery. I know because I've asked them at times, "Hey, can you look at this? Can you rewrite this paragraph?" And they would write something, and it'd just be so awful, so disgusting. It just
yeah,
they use all these words that are like from the New Yorker, a book review, something like that, a book review out of
yeah.
the New Yorker magazine or something. It's so highfalutin and
Mhm.
super intellectual, condescending. I just hate that
Well,
stuff.
I'm writing my autobiography, and it's been a while since I've been into it. But I get guy as soon as I get caught up here, that's gonna
Hmm.
be a while because I moved, then I got sick. It's a mess. So once I get caught up here, I go back to my book and keep writing on it.
Yeah, it's best. Look, you'll do whatever you think is best, but I think it's
Yeah,
really
I
good if you
probably won't
use
use
your
AI
own
too.
writing. Yeah, it has your voice, not
Yeah,
some other voice.
yeah.
Yes.
You say you've had some mystical experiences. What about them?
What
You
about
said
them?
that at the very beginning. You've had mystical experiences. What's
Yeah,
there about them?
I'll tell you about my first one.
All right.
I was uh I was a teenager. I was probably 18, and I was reading a book. I think it's oh my, I forgot what it was called. It was about the starets. I'm gonna look it up real quick. Hold on a sec. The Russian starets. Let's see. I'm gonna move my mic. I hope I don't make too much noise.
Yeah.
Um, it's The Way of the Pilgrim. That's the name of the book. It's called The Way of the Pilgrim, and it taught this whole method of continuous prayer. And I don't think I did exactly like they said to do it, but what I was doing was with every breath, I was saying the word Jesus. So every inhale, G, and every outhale, Zuz. And I did this for one day. And I probably did it about 90% of that day. I mean, not when I was sleeping, of course, but I did. And I remember that day, actually, I went to the beach with my girlfriend. It was a great time. And I was coming home. I was driving home alone. I think she stayed there. And all of a sudden, this experience hit me. I was in the car on the freeway, and I felt this incredible sense of, as I said before, this love, incredible sense of love for all people. But not just that, I felt indestructible. Like I felt like I could drive 200 miles an hour and crash into the biggest truck in the world. It would not kill me. I could not die. I just felt I was possessed by God. That's just all I can say. And I had it for about maybe 20 minutes, and then it slowly went away. And then after that, of course, I tried it again. I tried, and I couldn't get it back. I couldn't force it back. But that was my first one. I had a lot not a lot. I had my handful of them when I was in my 20s
Yeah.
and teens, I guess, teens and 20s. Yeah. I could, if you want, I'll tell you another one. I had a,
No, if you want to.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's boring or not. I mean,
No, it's
lots of
not
people
boring to
have.
me. It's interesting that you could feel you could drive 200 miles into a truck and live.
Well, I sure felt that. I didn't do it. I didn't try it, but I just felt like I would. You know, there's well, I'll tell one briefly, and then I'll talk about Colin Wilson and what his theory on him. So I went to a really nice school, a college in Claremont. It's called Pomona College, and I was a sheltered boy. I was raised middle class in a very, let's say, very white town. I mean, granted, yeah, very white and very sheltered. I lived out in the country, and we, I went to this school, and they were all that same type of people, except for they were richer. And my dad was in town, so I was in Claremont. That was maybe a 2 hour bus ride from downtown LA, or so he was somewhere on the beach, so a couple hours from the beach, I think. And he wanted me to come visit him, so I got on a bus, a Greyhound bus, and went out there and visited him. And everything was fine. And I'd wore really nice clothes to try to please him. I wore slacks. I mean, I looked like a dork, but I wore slacks and a really nice shirt and a sweater. I think I had a sweater. And on the way, it was time for me to go. He dropped me off downtown LA, I think. And I realized I didn't have enough money for the bus ride home. And so here I was in downtown LA near the bus station has never been nice. And this was in the 80s, and it wasn't nice then either. There's a lot of like people there's a lot of murders going on, a lot of really super poor people that, were on drugs and yeah, just bad elements, I guess. And here's some white boy who is dressed up, in slacks and a shirt and a sweater, and just looks so out of my element. So here I am on the corners begging for money. Hey, can I have a dollar? I need to catch a bus home. And of course no one would give me any money. And I was really
No.
scared because it was starting to get dark and I was scared. I was totally sheltered and yeah, anyway. So some guy, I asked him and he said, yeah, follow me. He was wearing like lumberjack clothes almost, jeans and a plaid wool shirt or something. So I followed him, and it turns out he was a priest. And he took me up to wherever it was they lived. And he said, here, sit in the kitchen. So I sat in the kitchen. He went and got me, $5 or $7, whatever it was I needed. and he gave it to me, and he just started asking me a few questions. And as he was talking to me, I felt like, this man is glowing. His face is glowing. I've never seen this before. This is really crazy. And he just, just smiled. It was just, he was so full of, I guess you can say, joy. And we spoke for a while, and then, I left. I went to the bus station, got on the bus. And as I was on the bus, then I got hit by the mystical experience. And I felt this again, this overwhelming sense of just love. I'd look out the window at people who before I was frightened of, or who I was, maybe I was disdainful towards. Sure, I'm sure I had that too, but I loved them. They were my people. They were my brothers and sisters. And it was an incredible, incredible feeling. Again, it only lasted for maybe only 10, 20 minutes, but I'll never forget it. And the way he glowed, I'll never forget. And that was my second. But what's interesting about that was that I was really absolutely terrified. I was terrified. On the bus ride there, I forgot to mention, there's all these elements I'd never seen before. So first, there's a military guy in all military gear, sitting straight up. Okay, he's fine. I have no problem with that guy. There was some dude that was like a punk rock guy with spiked hair, blonde spiked hair, and all this, in a leather coat, and he looked like he's on drugs, and he was kind of strung out. There's a couple, guys in the back who are screaming and just out of control, pissing out the window. This is on a Greyhound bus, and then they were pissing in the bus, and the piss was rolling. They're all screaming, and the piss was rolling underneath the military guys' feet and all this stuff. And it was like, I'd never been around people like this before. I was really frightened. But anyway, so what Colin Wilson, he's a famous writer who I love his writing and the way he writes, and his books, and yeah, and he believed that peak experiences come, or he thought you could actually force them. And he thought the way to do it is to be in extreme stress, like I was, and then let go. But extreme stress, and then you let go, and then it will come to you. That's what he said. And he wrote a book on it. I mean, it's his last book he wrote before he died. And I don't remember. Super Consciousness, I think it's called. And the name's Colin Wilson. I don't know. I haven't tried, and I guess I should, but yeah, he spent a lot of time thinking about that. And he's the one actually that told me he wrote about Maslow and the peakers and non-peakers and all of that. Yeah, that's where I learned about Maslow. It's from Colin Wilson.
Oh, that's interesting story there with that bus ride. I've ridden the bus a lot of times, but never in LA.
Oh, you
I
should have
rode
seen it. No,
15 years in Denver, the city buses, and they were just absolutely horrendous. And nothing compared to LA, but they were bad enough.
it's just
Who's this guy,
crazy.
Swedenborg?
Crazy. All right, you want to hear that? Um, Emanuel Swedenborg was around. Geez, I don't remember the dates. I'm going to guess he was around probably the time of uh, 1840s, I would think. Let me look at. I'm going to look it up real quick. Oh yeah, I don't have. The one thing that's bad about my book is I do not have a index. I wish I did. But I know it's essay 11. I got him. Anyway, so Swedenborg was, I guess you'd call, a polymath. He was a guy who was really good at everything. He was just like he's like Ben Franklin, and he was well respected as a scientist, a mineralogist, and he also came up with a lot of um, anatomical discoveries before anyone else did. But he did it, and then everybody, of course, forgot about it because he's some dude out of Sweden. But Swedenborg, I can't find it. I'm not going to find it, so I'll just read. I'll just tell you what I know. He was very well. He was kind of religious, although he had his problems like everyone else. But then he decided, I think, to get more religious. And one day, he was in a restaurant, and I guess I don't know if it was a vision or a person came up to him or something and said, "You better get home." So he ate and he went home. He goes to bed and he has an out of body experience. Out of body in this case for him meant he left the land of the living and entered the realm of the dead. What's the dead? Well, the spirits that seem to be hovering all around us. And I'll tell you more about that later. But this man, he wrote about it, but it happened every day for 40 years. 40 years every day he left his body, went into a trance, and went to the other side and spoke to all these spirits, spoke to them, had conversations. He spoke to people whose books he's read, like, Plato and stuff like this, and discussed their books. He
Wow.
talked to angels, he talked to demons. And some of the things he said were really amazing. Before I tell you some of those, I'll just say um, that Johnny Appleseed, you've heard of him?
Yeah.
He was planting apple trees all over the United States. Well,
Yeah.
that's not what he was really doing. He was doing that. So that he was doing the apple trees for the people who had the wagon trains so that when they, would show up somewhere, there'd be apples or food for them as
Yeah.
they were going across the country. I mean, that was really beautiful. Well, he was actually passing out Swedenborgian tracts. he was so he was a Swedenborgian.
Uh,
Um, anyway, so um, a few things that are really interesting that he said. I mean, he was fun. He was definitely a Christian. Definitely a Christian. He believed that we have new prophets every a couple thousand years or so. So humanity is progressing, and as it progresses, you need a new prophet. The new prophet gives you better truths. It's kind of like you're in first grade. You learn the first grade math. Okay, you've graduated. Now you can go to second grade math. You go, and so that's kind of what we're doing as a species. And he felt like he might be that new prophet. So he wrote so many volumes of his visions and all this stuff. He didn't try to form a church or anything. Okay, so some things he believed. He said that, for example, let's talk about heaven and hell. He thought that when people die, they they leave their body, but their spirits, they still hover around for quite a long time. They're just around us. And that the people who are let's say teenage boys who like to take baseball bats to mailboxes and do other kind of pranks like that, they die, and when they die, their spirits are kind of they like to put monkey wrenches into everything. They kind of like to screw things up, to make
yeah.
people's lives difficult and stuff. Some people are just evil, and when
Yeah.
they die, they will try to lead you astray into evil. And then some people are really good people, and when they die, they will try to lead you towards good things. He calls the evil ones demons and the good ones angels. So that's what we are or will be. And but the heaven and and so he believed that we do make decisions, but every thought we have or emotion is actually put into our heads or bodies by these angels and demons. We are receivers, and we choose which signal we want to obey. So they will, the demons. Oh, I know. So I watched. Well, I won't talk about that. So, yeah. So like you would hear someone saying, "Oh, you should. That guy, you're mad. That guy made you mad. You should go and hit him. You should go hit him, or just tell me he's a jerk. Do that." Do that, or that guy made you mad. Let's just pull in front of him and then slow down and make him, really angry. We'll do that, when we're driving. Those are the voices of demons. The voices of angels are not very loud. They whisper. They're a lot quieter. They're harder to hear, and they are the ones that are teaching you or trying to pull you in a direction of loving and helping other people. Okay, being your better self. And okay, we've when we die, so we every moment of the day there's a fight for our souls, and it's between the forces of good and evil. They're fighting over us. When we die, well, back up. As he saw it, there was four kinds of people. There is it four? Yeah, there's four. So let's put it differently. There's an inner person and an exterior person. So it's kind of like M&Ms. Inside there's chocolate, outside we have this candy shell, right? So some people are good on the inside and bad on the outside. Or at least they have a gruff exterior. That might be like maybe some of those stereotypical bikers, who look really rough and like they're going to beat everyone up, but really they're just teddy bears and they're just loving people, but they look so mean and, all that stuff. Or there are the people who look and act so polished and are so kind to everyone, but really they're evil inside and they just want stuff. They want stuff for themselves, or they want power or sex, or who knows what they're after, but they're very nice on the outside. And then there's people who are just nice on the outside and the inside, or people that are bad on the outside and the inside. So those are my four types of people. When you go to heaven, or not heaven, when you die in the other world, it takes a long time, but slowly that outer shell starts to erode. And eventually you end up with what is just the inner part of you. And you, as during this process, which might take 100 years or so, you will start to congregate with people who are more like you. The good are attracted to good people, and the evil like to be around evil people. That's just how it is. They just are attracted to
Yeah.
like sorts, right? And so he believed and wrote that heaven is, we actually choose there. God doesn't choose if we go to heaven or hell. We do. We do.
Hmm.
We choose to be around the angels because we are angels. Isn't
Okay.
that interesting?
That is
That's
very
really
interesting.
fascinating. Yes,
We
it is.
are about out of time. Very, very incredible hour. I'm telling you, it's great. I loved it. However, I'd like to make a suggestion if you don't mind.
Do it.
Do it. I want to do a second session with you to finish up because I got to
Okay,
pick up.
let's do that.
Let's do it. So you pick another day, and we'll do part two of the thing.
Okay.
I
Can we
think
do it
we haven't talked
in
about.
yeah, there's plenty because we haven't really even talked about the books about. Those are
Yeah,
just little pieces of it. Can we do
yeah.
it in 3 weeks? Can you wait that long?
Sure, I can wait as long as you want. Up to you.
Oh, you can wait 3 weeks? Okay, let's do that
You
because
just pick a
I'm
day
going to
and
be
time.
gone
I'll
for a
send you the
while.
link again. I'll send you the link again, and you just pick your day and time.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you,
Thanks,
John.
Dale.
This has been I've done this before. I've had him come back a second time because there's just so much there we couldn't get to all of it. And I think
There's a
that's
lot
what's
here.
going on here.
There's a lot
So
here. Thanks, Dale.
thank you. I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay.